you beat yourself up over the losses in anything. Yeah. Well, I don't get business, family, sports. Hate losing more than they like winning. If you're competitive, you count your losses more than you count your wins.
One path is a long, winding, unpaved, back-breaking, bumpy, miserable road to a place called success. The other road is straight, paved, smooth, comfortable, and that road ends up in a place called failure. Welcome to the show. I am Kyle Matthews on the Matthews Mentality Podcast, where we dive into the mindset of the world's most driven founders, CEOs, business moguls, athletes, and entrepreneurs. Each episode will turn our guests' wisdom into practical advice that will help you build a deeper understanding of what led them to success and the mentality behind what got them there. Let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of the Matthews Mentality Podcast. I'm joined today by former professional hockey player, entrepreneur, investor, most interesting man in the world, Chris Pronger. Second most interesting man. Who was it? What was that beer commercial? Dos Equis, yeah. All right, fair play. Chris is a hockey Hall of Famer, one of NHL's top 100 greatest players. He's known as the fiercest and most dominant defenseman in the league's history and has built an impressive legacy during his 19 seasons in the National Hockey League. Throughout his career, he was a four-time All-Star, won a Norris Trophy as the league's best defenseman and a Hart Trophy as the league's most valuable player, a Stanley Cup, and 2 Olympic gold medals. He brings that winning mentality and entrepreneurial spirit to his new venture, Well-Inspired Travels, a boutique luxury travel company that caters to athletes, entertainers, C-suite executives, and high-net-worth individuals. And another thing I know you're also spending time building out your new whiskey business, the JRNY.
Correct.
All right, we're going to talk about that with your brother Sean and their partner at Niagara Falls Craft Distillers. Chris, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Do you get to Nashville a lot?
Been here a little more the last couple of years. Our son, there's a lot of Nashville kids in his class and in his fraternity. So we've been here for a couple of birthday parties.
And this is at SMU?
Yes. Yeah, down in Dallas.
Well, I figured if you're slanging whiskey, you gotta make it to Whiskey Row every now and then.
Absolutely.
I have obviously a lot of experience being around athletes. I get some family, different sport, but very similar career in that sense. And there is no typical day post playing, but I'm going to ask you the question, like, what does a typical day look like for you nowadays?
I think the biggest mistake athletes make when they retire is they don't create a routine like they had. Well, it doesn't have to be the same routine, but just create a routine, a schedule. As a professional athlete, you run on someone else's time. Somebody's telling you where to be, what to do, how to do it. And then when you retire, you don't have that. So you need to create a routine, whether it's getting up, getting a workout in, or just creating some sort of routine that you know your body's going to be doing something. We're all going to be sore. As I mentioned earlier, motion lotion, get busy, get doing something, and get a sweat, get a lift, get some type of physical activity, get the mind, get the blood going, get the mind racing, and then create some type of purpose, whether you'd like to read, whether you're taking time off or whether you're trying to find a job, whether you're immersing yourself in a new job, push your chips in and be invested in it. Learn what you need to know about whatever XYZ job is. And take the same time and the same care that you had to your previous profession, whether that's sports or what have you, and then do the same thing in that one. And results typically do come at some point.
I've been blessed in terms of my family. They've done a good job transitioning from playing to civilian life, right? And one of the things, and we'll just dive into the mindset behind one of the biggest challenges I've seen, not just within the family more so, but my teammates from school or just watching a lot of ex-athletes. Obviously, my exposure a little more NFL, yours obviously the NHL, but is you touched on when you're playing, you're on someone else's time, and really they're creating the schedule for you. And I experienced this just for 4 years. And even then I had this transition period where playing a sport is not easy. So I don't want anyone to ever hear me say, oh, it's easy, because it's not. It's very difficult, not to mention just the athletic gifts you have to excel at a level like you. But part of what could be, I would say, was easier for me was you get to turn off your brain and somebody is basically creating that discipline for you where it's like, okay, you're going to be here at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're going to lift for 2 hours, and here are the lifts you're going to do, and here's the amount of reps you're going to do, and here's the weight you're going to do. And then at 8 o'clock, you're going to go here and you're going to eat this. And then at 11 o'clock, here's the film, and you're going to watch this film. And so where I'm going is like, you said it earlier, is like you're on their schedule, but they're making the schedule. One of the big challenges I see, and you talk about routine, and I'm gonna layer on another word, discipline, is you have to have discipline to stick to a routine. Unfortunately, a lot of athletes come out, and you would think they have discipline, but they have discipline in the sense that they can follow someone else's routine, but they really struggle to create their own. Was that something you struggled with when you come out, or it just came easy to you?
There's two camps. You see the guys who retire and say they never want to work out again, and they get fat, and they're just massive. And then there's the other camp that are like, I enjoyed working out. I enjoy my health. I enjoy being active and mobile, and those people tend to set up structure and set up a routine that they can adhere to that is getting their days started on that confident note, something that they know. They've been lifting, they've been working out their whole lives. They just stick in the routine.
And was that you?
Yeah, I always, I've pretty much, when I got hurt and I had to retire, there was that first year where I didn't do much, I couldn't. And it's just every day on to the next day of, darkness and depression and all the things, until one day I'm like, looked in the mirror, I was getting a little skinny soft. And I'm like, yeah, we need to do something about this. And just was like, all right. It's just like that. You flip the switch, and you're like, all right, I'm going to work out. And whether I feel good or not, man, I'm going to work out, and you just layer a day on top of each day.
And there's different levels of that. We're on a mentality podcast, so the mentality behind, real quick, walk the audience through. What are you doing? It's like a hardcore 75, or what was this?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing 75 hard right now.
75 hard.
2 workouts. My friend in St. Louis, Andy Frissella, created this program. He's one of the owners of First Form Supplement Company in St. Louis, based in St. Louis. And it's 2 workouts a day, 1 lifting weights. The second one is outside. Each workout is 45 minutes. And if you want to work outside and lift again, or you want to walk, or you want to run, or you kind of do whatever, it's read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, whether it's a biography or leadership, mentality, whatever interests you. You get it. No cheat meals, no alcohol, a set nutrition plan
for 75 days.
For 75 days, a progress picture every morning, and really, it's again the mentality, the mindset, the discipline to not forget, but create a routine around these things that you need to accomplish, and set them up, and you just start kind of working through how to set up, how you want to do it, and how you want to achieve all these set goals. And now I'm on day 19, I think it is.
I was going to say, how many days are you in?
Day 19, and it's
feeling good?
It's starting. It's starting to become plug and play. You get up at 5, you take your picture, you go down to the gym, you get your workout. You then you just map out your day based around all the things that you need to accomplish. And
do you ever have moments? And I'll ask this question a lot throughout the podcast, and really related to different periods of your life as we kind of go through it. But even is 75 hard, are there moments where, there's a voice in your head just saying, hey, well, you don't need to do this. Like, stop, take it easy, take a cheat day. You're already doing enough. Because I think a lot of people have that. I'll speak for myself. There's moments where it's like your reptilian brain's telling you to slow down. Do you ever get that?
Yeah, I think it's more the athlete in me of, all right, I'm doing this, I'm doing it. And I'm not, I'm going to adhere to the discipline that's needed and the structure that's needed to accomplish the goal, which is 75 days of doing all these things in a row. But it's also having that structure and that detail of your life still goes on. I was at a member guest last weekend. I was at my Canadian launch for the Whisky the week before that. I was on a hunting trip with my son and some of his frat buddies that weekend. Life goes on. It's just a matter of incorporating the program. I got up every morning we were hunting. I'd wake up. They had a gym there, nice, thankfully.
There you go.
So I'd get up at 6, go get my workout in, meet everybody for breakfast, go for the hunt, go for a walk, read my book, just get things, you're on a set schedule and a timeline, just figure out a way to shoehorn it in and map it out. Okay, here's when I can do it. Here's when they have their downtime. It would feel good to go take a nap because I was walking in the bush all day shooting, but I got to go do my why. And it's just a matter, again, mindset and discipline of you committed to do something, now do it.
I've
Follow
noticed,
through on
especially with athletes, and this is a compliment, the word I use is manic. They either they're all in or they're not in at all. And again,
That's exactly what my wife says. No matter what it is, whether it's building a whiskey company, whether it's working out, whether it's training, you immerse yourself in it, and you just like, I'm all in. I want to learn everything about the business. I want to learn everything about 75 Hards, training, mapping things out and just researching things to make sure that you put your best foot forward and are able to accomplish your goals.
So you're all in everything you do. Let me ask, going back to when you were a kid, was that the case?
No, there were moments. There were certainly failures where you learn you didn't invest, you didn't put the effort forth, you didn't train properly, you didn't do the most you could to prepare for what was the next step or the next stage in your career, your tryouts, all those different things. I got cut from teams. And
I was going to say, is there a specific failure that sticks out?
I was trying out for the under-17 team in Ontario, and I got cut from our local regional camp. And I was like, and some of, as always, there was some, I think, political things going on. I didn't play for the team that they wanted me to play for the year before, and there was some bad blood and some side issues going on. But I also
Canadians tend to be very nice, but not when it comes to
until
hockey.
they're not nice.
No, I was gonna say not, but hockey is it's something else. It's funny because at first I'm like, well, Canadians, that sounds very vindictive. I don't know. I know some Canadians, they're very nice, but then it's like, well, this is hockey. It's different.
So I get cut from this team, and I had played high school hockey the year before with all my buddies. And we went to the All-Ontario Championships, and a scout saw me playing. He's like, oh, my God, this kid's great. And I got cut from this camp, and this particular scout got 2 wild cards that he could use to invite kids that he thought either got overlooked or either didn't have a good camp or whatever. And he used one of those wild cards on me, who then went on to make the team, and then went on to XYZ after that. And so I've become really good friends with that scout.
Sure.
And we always laugh about it, talk about what could have been and what became.
Yeah, you did more than XYZ. We're going to talk about XYZ, but walk us through, because I don't know, is when you get cut from a team in Canada, if it's like America's, what is it? They put a list on the door and you walk up and either see your name or don't see your name. Like what how did you know you got cut?
It depends on the age group. In this particular instance, they just call you in. We're not taking you. Here's our reasons why. I'm like, okay, sure. Whatever.
Wait, no. Hold on, time out. They call you in, and are you walking in thinking like, yeah, I'm good? And you sit,
I thought I had a good camp.
And you sit down in a chair and they say, we're not taking you. Like, what goes through your mind and body in that moment?
I was a little defeated. I was pissed off.
You're 16, roughly?
I was 15. I was 15. Yeah, I was 15. I was pissed off. I was pissed off at them. I was pissed off at myself, knowing I didn't get into the best shape possible. I didn't train the way I should have trained to prepare. I was looking at all the other political bullshit that I knew was going on behind the scenes. And then one of the guys who cut me wanted me to try out for his team the next year.
Yeah, you're like,
no, thanks, thank you. I'm good.
You're good. Would you say that moment benefited you in the long run? Perhaps it provided you fuel to, whether it was working out or playing or going against some of the guys who made it and you were cut, at that next camp when you were the wild card? Do you think that actually long-term, that, I don't want to say failure, but that adversity actually was better for you in the long run?
Well, absolutely. I tell my kids all the time, adversity, failure, however you want to describe it, is good for you as long as you're learning. As long as you take something from the defeat, the failure, the mistake, whatever you want to call it, and use that as fuel. I use that as fuel every day I trained. You get tired on the bike, like somebody else is training harder than you, and you push that much harder. And you push past that edge of, I think I'm tired. No, I'm not tired. And you just push and push and push to train. Just when I was playing, I'm like, I'm not going to be the guy that get tired. you're going to get tired before I'm going to get tired. I can stay out here all day, and we can have our matchup, and we can play the game, and you're going to get tired well before me because I'm going to train harder than you. I'm going to prepare harder and make sure that I'm able to outlast you and ultimately then grind on you and wear on you to do my job to the best of my ability.
And it's like a Michael Jordan story. He got cut from he was probably, if I had to guess, 16 from his sophomore or freshman basketball team. It sounds like similar period. But before that, had looking at your childhood, had hockey come easy to you? Were you always one of the better, if not best players?
Yeah. I was, for being fairly tall, I was a pretty good skater. I could see the ice, vision, passing, all that kind of stuff. So I was always I moved up a couple age brackets at various times during my minor hockey career. Played with my brother 1 year, who's 2 years older, and kind of bounced around a little bit like that. And then high school hockey, I was 14 and 15 years old playing against 19, 20-year-olds. So playing against quasi-men, young adults, and playing up like that, you have to learn leverage. I was not always a thick kid. I was fairly skinny in high school, so you gotta know leverage. You gotta know angles. Trying to push around, I'm a 140-pound sopping wet, and I got to push around a 220-pound guy. But I'm tall, and I got big shoulder pads, so I may look big.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of play the part before you fill into the part.
It's interesting how that works. I'm obviously not your size, but when I was high school, even college, they had to put me on a weight gaining program where I had to drink these shakes. Like I had to drink 5,000-6,000. I'd eat 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day. Now it's the opposite. It's like, man, I just got to keep it off.
Yeah, exactly. It's maintaining and not letting excess get to you. But it's
so you grew up in Ontario, Canada. What was your childhood like?
Small town Canada, Dryden, Ontario. Now I think it's a thriving 6,500 people. Pulp and paper mill town. Grew up, town situated around Wabigoon Lake. Pretty easy going small town vibe,
And hockey is the sport.
Hockey's the sport. All in the wintertime, my brother and I would either be in the basement, we'd be in the driveway, we'd be on the road playing road hockey. There was an outdoor rink a block away. We'd be out there skating, or we'd be at the local arena, having more structured practice or games. But in the winter, fall, winter, early spring, it was just hockey, and then it was baseball in the late spring, and then it was golf in the summer. And then I played a little bit of volleyball in high school, and then it was just hockey. But getting the 4 seasons and getting that time away from the game, I think really helped me, harness my athleticism and playing other sports and getting that break and giving your body a break from the grind of hockey. It's not a natural movement your body makes, and skating, it's hard on your hips and your back and things of that nature. So getting away and just being a kid. I think a lot of times I tell mine, I'm like, you got to be a kid, because guess what? Pretty soon you're not a kid, and nobody's there to help you. So enjoy the moments of being a kid and have fun doing it.
We talk a lot about nature versus nurture, specific to mindsets and mentality and all that. Would your success in focusing on hockey as a young kid, where you're playing up divisions, and I understand you got cut at one point, but generally you probably were very, very good at every stage. Was that really a function of you just being so physically and athletically blessed, or would you say you had the mindset that you displayed later on in terms of like, where I'm just going to outwork, I'm going to outlast you, I can go all day, I'm all in? Was that something that you also had at 10, 12, 14 years old?
I always had good cardio. I wasn't necessarily a specimen, so to speak, but I had good cardio. I could skate forever. But one of the things that I did is I picked up on things. I had really good hockey sense. I knew where everybody was going to be on the ice. So I was able to use that ability to understand the game to lessen my workload, to make sure I was always in the right spot, so I wasn't running around trying to chase the play. I was in the spot where I thought it was going to be, or where was the most dangerous area. And from that, I just played high school for 2 years. Then I played junior B for a year. Then I played junior A for 2 years. Then I played pro. And just with each one of those years got better, challenging yourself with better caliber players, older players. And then when I got to junior B, I was in this crux of do I go play junior or do I follow my brother and go play college hockey? And which one was going to be best for me and my development? And ultimately, we chose the junior route. Had I gone the college route, I don't know what would have happened. Obviously, a lot of things could go on at college, and you're only playing 32 games. It's just much less rigorous, much less like an NHL schedule, and I wanted to play and kind of immerse myself in that. And I got a deal with the team that drafted me that they would pay for my schooling if I didn't make it. So it was kind of, I got the best of both worlds.
Well, we're definitely going to cover your hockey career, but before we do, if I was sitting down having some JRNY whiskey with some of your teammates from your youth hockey days, how would they describe you? Not so much as a player, but from your mindset at the time. I'll lead you here. I'll lead you here as I coach 7th grade football this fall, and there's 80 kids on the team, and 70 of them are 7th graders, right? Like they're there. You got to get their attention. They want to do well, but they have a million other interests. But there's there's a tiny handful of kids that even though they're in the 7th grade, they're locked in. They're asking questions. They're disciplined. Like they really take to coaching. They're much mentally older.
You feel like they're generally interested in your answer.
Yeah. And even whether it's, again, pushing through adversity, whether it's an injury or you could even see it in conditioning at the end of practice. Yeah. They're just as tired as everyone else, but you could see they're pushing themselves. Yeah. And it's really,
they don't need you to push them. They're doing it themselves.
And so that's what I say is, I don't want to lead you in your answer, but really to kind of give you a sense of the question I'm trying to ask, which is if I was sitting with your teammates or even your coaches, and again, we had a couple drinks of JRNY, so they might be a little more candid,
a little looser with their verbiage.
Yeah. How do you think, in your opinion, would they describe you from a mindset at that time?
I would say, one of the things that my coaches always told me is they would be describing the drills, and I used to go to the library when I was a young kid, and I'd look at hockey books and hockey practice books and look at all the practice, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, just look at all the graphs and all the things. So when they were describing, I would already be gone moving all the pucks because I knew what drill we were doing. And I knew why we were doing that drill and what outcome you were trying to get from that and what they're trying to ingrain in you and teach you, because I already read all the books. The same books they were reading, I had already read. So when these practices were kind of built out and these drills were put in place, I already knew them. So I use that as a way to kind of hone my hockey sense and have an understanding of, well, if everybody's doing these drills, why are they doing these drills and why are they funneling everybody to this specific area? And it's just, cause and effect, and you reverse engineer. Okay, well, if everybody's going there, well, where do I got to be to negate that or stop that as a defenseman? And then from that, how does that translate to openings? If I do create a turnover in that specific instance, then where do I go with it? Who's going to be open? Where are they going to be, and why are they there? And I was always a very detailed kid, and therefore I held myself to a high standard. But unfortunately for some of my teammates, I held them to the same standard, and they got into a lot of arguments with parents of, well, why are you always yelling at my kid? I'm like, because I'm trying to push them because I want to win, and so everything was about winning, but putting the time and effort in to create the outcome you want.
So to be 12, 13, 14 years old, going to the library to study hockey practice books is, I think you'd agree, probably not normal.
No.
Right? And then that showed up at practice where you already knew the drill and the coaches were explaining it to the other 10, 15, 20 people on the team. And so, again, I'm going to put that, part of that is it seems like the discipline, the mentality, a lot of that's just nature.
Yeah.
It was there.
Yep.
Okay. There wasn't something where your dad sat you down or your mom and said, this is how you need to do it and enforce that.
No. And my nickname growing up was Chaos. So.
Chaos. I was going to ask. Zach, my guy Zach, he's a big hockey guy, so he's like, you got to ask about his nickname.
Yeah,
Chaos.
Nickname was Chaos, and yes.
Was that because of what you did on the ice?
On and off the ice.
I was going to say, was that because of what you did on the ice?
It was actually more off, and then it became on too.
God bless your parents then. That's funny.
Yes.
Was there any one story as a kid off the ice that you'd share that you find looking back is funny, or you don't want your kids to hear it?
Yeah, I mean, they know some of them, but I mean, it's just A lot of it was on the ice, some of it off, more just us, our group, just being donkeys and playing hockey. I mean, like we would play road hockey. I was probably 13, 14. We would have legit hockey fights.
So
with our friends.
Okay.
Where you
again,
drop your, you just grab on.
Yeah.
You got like a big puffy mitt on.
and you just punch.
It probably feels like a UFC glove, maybe a little less because you can still feel the knuckles. I mean, and you're just legit hitting your friend.
It's a great way to
fight better.
Yeah, fight better.
If it hurts, fight better.
So real quick, street hockey, is that in the summer you've got rollerblades?
No, it's on. So in Dryden, it's so cold and it snows so much that the road is basically ice.
Yeah.
And then they create the natural boards by plowing the snow. You create these boards. So we would be hitting each other into these big snow drifts. Then we'd be fighting and be screwing around, and it was always like.
This is why I know America hockey is growing, right?
Yeah.
But American players are just at a disadvantage. Like maybe in Minnesota, maybe northern Wisconsin. Like you're just
northern
not.
Minnesota it's pretty close to my hometown. They would get a similar.
Okay, so like a very small
and,
small part of the country.
There's not a lot of people there though.
Yeah, I know that's right.
In northern Minnesota.
This is true. So, I mean, I don't want to call it an advantage. Most people would say growing up in a place where the roads froze over, you could skate on is an advantage, but it is very much so in a hockey sense.
Oh yeah. Just the sponge puck would slide better. Ball. We would play street hockey too. We pretty much played from September to April. We would play, and then you're.
And
fooling
to
around
what
to
you
get a
said,
bit
in
older.
the summer you get to be a kid.
Yeah.
And a kid in Canada is, what is it, fishing?
Yeah, fishing, swimming, golfing, farting around like me and my brother. We had a 3-wheeler. Can't do that now. You need a 4-wheeler. But 3-wheeler back then when all that was going on, we had 3-wheeler. We were driving around the pits and screwing around. Just being kids. Yeah, just hanging out with your buddies. I mean, throwing rocks.
Just staying busy. And this was,
I'd leave my house at, that you wish you could go back and have your kids be a part of your life growing up. I would leave my house at 8 o'clock and I'd come back at 5. And not one time would you ever think that you're not coming home. Now you got to schedule a play date. You got to have every piece of technology.
You have one of those
they?
Apple Tag trackers on their belt loop. Because you're like, oh, where are they?
Oh my God, where are they? What's going on?
Not a lot of Call of Duty gaming back then, right?
No. My VIC 20 was not.
Didn't have the processing capability.
10.
Yeah, exactly.
That was about the extent.
All
of
right,
it.
so that's as a kid. Now let's talk about becoming an adult as it relates to your playing days. You had mentioned you were thinking you were going to go to college, but decided not to. Kind of walk us through what that looked like and eventually getting to the NHL.
Yeah, so back then, you could spend 4 to 8 hours at a junior training camp and not lose your eligibility. Technically, junior players are professionals making $19 a week.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a hell of a payday.
Sounds like a good deal.
So in the NCAA's brain power, they decided that they're pros, which makes no sense, but whatever.
It's probably self-serving.
Yes.
Oh, no,
100%. They didn't want people going back and forth.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's always a reason.
The rules have kind of changed a little bit since then. But, yeah, I could spend 4 to 8 hours at training camp, so I got to practice for 2 days with the group. And we had, on my team in Peterborough, we had a first-round pick. We had a second-round pick. We had we had some players that had been drafted, so I had an understanding as to how good these guys are that are getting drafted, and then some kids my age were highly touted, and you get to skate with them and play with them, and you're like, oh, come from a small town in the middle of nowhere. You got to remember pre-internet. I'm getting a weekly little pamphlet called Hockey Digest where you get all your information about last week in the sport. And there was like a little tab on the OHL that gave you like a snippet of, there was a bench clearing brawl on da-da-da-da. And we really didn't know much about the league, and a friend of ours had gone a couple years before that, and he was a fighter and all this stuff. So you get jaded with perception and obviously somebody else's ideology behind it. And I went and I'm like, man, this is great. I'm getting to play against all these top players, all these high prospects, and I'm like, I fit in. I don't feel out of place. And unfortunately, I had to go back to Junior B. If I didn't play Junior A, I had to go back to Junior B and spend another year in a lesser league and just really not be challenging myself and stunting my development. So
and all of this, I might need to take a step back in a year or two, even before college age, being 18. You were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were away from your family now?
yeah, so when I played, I left home at 15, going into grade 11.
And so that's to focus on hockey full time.
Moved 20 hours away from my hometown to play junior B in Stratford. Lived with a lady in Stratford, and
How was that?
it was
not living,
it was
I mean
hard.
being away from
Yeah,
family.
it was hard. The first year was hard.
You and your brother are
uh,
pretty close.
Yeah, and he was living in Thunder Bay at the time. Oh, hold on, was he gone yet? I think he had already committed to go to Bowling Green, but was finishing his last year in Thunder Bay. And then I was trying to make my decision, seeing how his year went. All the while, I started kind of in the middle my first year in junior B, and then by the end of the year, I was already ready for that next
Blossoming.
step. Yeah, I developed and kind of came through the league and kind of was at the top of my learning curve, and just understanding having to go back, and it was going to be a step back, and it was just going to be, what am I doing?
Were there any moments when you were away from your family, and for a lot of people it just shows up as homesickness, but that you questioned, how bad do I really want to do this? Is it worth it? You know, because the comforts of being around your mom, your dad, your brother. Some people, I could speak from a football sense, they just kind of pack up and go home one day. Did that ever cross your mind?
I didn't. I love the hockey side of it. It was just more that first year, I got a little homesick. Once our season was over, I went back home and finished high school, my 11th grade year, back home. We had two months left. And then after that, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm good. I moved to Peterborough, lived with a great family, had my own little setup. And, that first year in Stratford, I'm riding the city bus to school. Like, they kind of had me set up in a bad location because I was the only guy from our team living in this area. So I couldn't get a ride from any of the older guys. So I'm taking the city bus to school. I'm doing all this stuff. And, I was kind of a little bit on an island, which probably didn't help them. And created, I think, some of the homesickness because I wasn't near any of the other guys.
Yeah,
I
you
couldn't
weren't
get
near
to
your
them.
teammates.
I didn't have a car.
So unless you were at practice, you basically were alone, physically and mentally.
Yeah, and she was a widow, so it was just me and her. And I'm in the basement, she's upstairs. So it was just not ideal for social interaction and things like that. Yeah, development in that regard.
So you're at the Peterborough Petes. You have this experience. Again, it seems like the hockey was good, but maybe not so much the...
Yeah, so my mom was a teacher. My dad was an accountant, so I was always pretty good in school. And so I was trying to fast track through high school. And in Ontario at the time, there was what was known as grade 13, which was your OAC year. You could crunch that into grade 12 so that you could... Most of my friends did 5 years of high school. I was trying to do 4 to then go to college and get it done. So I still fast-tracked through my first year in junior. So when I was my draft year, my second year, I was actually going to university. So I'd already graduated and took a couple classes at Trent University in Peterborough.
And this kind of leads into a big moment in anyone's life. Obviously, yours is being drafted in the NHL, second overall, right, by Hartford Whalers. But just real quick, how does that process play? Like, when do you know? Does someone, scout or a coach say, hey, by the way, you might, like, you're trending to being a drafted, and not just an eligible, I mean, like, someone who's actually going to get drafted. And then as it got closer, did you have any inclination what it looked like that you may go very, very high in the draft?
To take it back a step, when I was playing in Stratford, in our junior B league, there was 3 or 4 highly recruited OHL players. I was one of them. I think I was rated second overall in the OHL draft and told them I'm not going, I'm going to go to college. So I didn't get picked till like the 6th round, but I was rated second overall. So all these other guys are going, then they start playing, and then ultimately I go. So we're all now lumped into, well, that's going to be the next group of the NHL draft. And some of us made it, and some of these kids, it's like anything. You got to keep developing. You got to keep getting, the best kid at 13 isn't always the best kid at 18.
In fact, it almost never is.
Exactly. So, whether that kid's gone through puberty faster than everybody else or what have you. I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons. But a lot of those guys that I went into the OHL with, a few of us were high picks, but a lot of guys didn't even get drafted.
Were you always, you're for the audience sake, you're 6'6",
Yep.
like a big guy, right? And a lot of big guys, not athletic, but you're also known for being big and athletic. Were you always that? Were you a late bloomer? Was it something you just, you know, how did your development physically compare with where you ended up?
Yeah, I was always athletic. I could always pick up sports fast.
Like, were you always tallest in your class?
Always one of the tallest, if not the tallest in the class. And when everybody stopped, I just kept going.
Got it. So you're just big.
Yeah. And I was super skinny as a kid growing up. I mean, super skinny. And when I got drafted, the year so I obviously played a lot that year going into the draft. And my draft year after the Memorial Cup, which is the big tournament at the end of the year, I was 6'5", 167 pounds. So I can tell you how skinny I was. And then you
probably were pretty ripped, though.
Oh, I was shredded.
Hopefully you got some pictures.
Then by the time the draft came, a month and a half later, I was 185 pounds.
Yeah, you were.
Went into camp, I was 200 pounds, but still 6'6", 200. I'm like, you know, that first year of pro, I grew an inch. So I was still growing.
You're playing against grown men.
You know, and I'm playing against grown men, and the league back then was a lot older, and so
were they like smoking cigarettes in the locker room?
Not quite, but I had a few beers in the locker room, and
just only between periods 2 and 3, not 1 and 2.
Exactly,
though, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there were still guys smoking, just not between periods.
No, I'm thinking, it's a cliche, but I'm thinking like some Russian players.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the
No,
yeah.
100%. They were. Oh no, they still did.
Yeah. All right, so your first 2 years, you're with the Hartford Whalers. What was that like? I mean, obviously, you're touching on how physically it was an adjustment, but what's it like? What's going through your head? You're a professional athlete. Again, probably not what the guys are getting paid now, but you know, making money and playing on the big stage.
Yeah, it was. Again, you know, you go from finding comfort in Peterborough as you kind of mature and develop, and then you're going to a new environment. 19 years old, not of age, in Hartford, not a whole lot going on. Mm-hmm. Pretty quiet, and now it's, you know, much more quiet. But back then, having a team and UConn was in its craze, and you know, all that stuff. So, coming into a professional sports league, I'm thinking, all right, we're going to be on the front page of the paper. We were on like page 6. Yeah. UConn basketball, UConn's women's basketball. I mean, 4 or 5 pages of sports page, and then there's a little blurb about the Whalers, and I'm like,
you're between where's it, Boston and New York, so I'm sure they talk about those teams.
Our games when we played the Bruins, half Bruins fans, half Whalers fans. Play the Rangers, half Rangers fans, half Whalers fans. I mean, it was, you know, they were good in the fact that our building was sold out, but it was like, okay, they may be overtaking our own building.
Hold on, if you're listening, you gotta Google Chris Pronger, you know, draft day. You had the sweetest mullet. Short line.
I had some good hockey hair brewing.
Dude, it was, and the best part is that style has come full circle back.
I love it.
So, you know, half the kids I coached this year had mullets, and I was just, you know, I was always messing with, like, what, you run out of money halfway through your haircut, you know? Yeah. But now they'd see that picture, is like, man, you know.
Love it. You call it hockey hair, mullet, whatever.
You were just swagging out.
My boys grew out a little bit of a mullet for lacrosse when they're playing high school. And
did you like it, or were you like, what are you doing?
No, that was the look. Some of the guys I played high school hockey with, man, they had sick mullets.
I'll tell you, my dad played football, pro football, and he rocked a mullet for like 17 years. And I still give him a hard time, you know, but it was great. I was looking at some photos of you the other day. I mean, you look so young. I mean, but how old were you?
I was 18.
18
Fresh-faced.
years old.
It's a baby-face assassin.
6'6". Yeah, you were. 6'6", just got north of 200 pounds. You enter the league. How was that adjustment from a pure playing against, you know, respectfully, just the best of the best?
Being a structure guy, it was difficult and easy at the same time. Difficult in the sense that you're playing against men and you're playing against the best in the world. There's not as big a drop-off as you may get in junior. So, you know, you got to adjust in that regard. But it's also, they're smarter. They know the system. They know where they need to be. So you don't have to wait for them to be there. They're there.
They're professionals.
So playing the game, It's, it's routine, it's function, we go through these breakout drills, we do all these things.
It's actually like
so
a
that
better
it
experience.
it becomes, you don't have to think. It's subconscious that guy's going to be there. And when he's not there, you're like, where were you? Why weren't you there?
It's more the exception than
Correct.
the rule.
Exactly.
While
So
when you were younger, it sounded like you would get frustrated when teammates didn't see what you saw or prepared the way you prepared.
Correct.
If I'm hearing you correctly,
Correct.
when you got to the NHL, you were around professionals.
And it was a matter of that part, the structure side was easy. Then it was just a matter of playing the game at that level and knowing the speed of the players, the strength of the players, and then learning the league and learning the players and their habits and understanding. You're just gaining a little bit more experience.
Was there ever a moment, you hear a lot of players talk about this regardless of sport, but that moment is kind of like welcome to the NHL moment where it could have been a hit you took or you got beat where you're just like, oh, shit, like I'm at another level now.
Yeah, I think it was my first year in Boston Garden. I think Ray Bourque might have played 38 minutes, and Cam Neely scored a couple goals, and you're just seeing the level that they can take it to when they step on the gas and when they're like, all right, we're going to win. We were kind of that, wanted to be a playoff team, but we weren't quite there yet. We didn't have the horses, and you're just like, when you play a team that has the horses, when they put their foot on the gas,
It's next level.
you know what you're in for.
They call it's you hear playoff football, playoff basketball, but playoff hockey is a thing too. Like
Yeah.
it's just a different speed,
Yeah.
right? And so it sounds like even though it wasn't in the playoffs when you played those teams or those players, and they really, and maybe it was a regular season game, but towards the end they're like, okay, we're gonna win now. They're just
Yeah. It's like a rivalry game. And like, all right, this is the game, boys. Everybody's prepared to do what it takes. Regular season, then you get to the playoffs, and it's like, all right, you got guys diving in front of pucks with their face. You've got, it's just
playoff hockey.
guys playing with separated shoulders, broken bones.
Even in LA, the Kings in the playoffs, they had fans show up.
Yep.
And playoff hockey was different. So your two seasons with Hartford, how did you think it was going? And I'm going to lead into, and then all of a sudden you find out you're traded. But how did you think it was going?
Think mentality.
Yeah.
And then the business side
Yep.
of mentality. I get to my year-end meeting, and in my contract, it was like, all right, every summer I needed to go down to Hartford and train and whatever. And I'm like, I meet with the GM, and he's like, we're walking through the season. Hey, you're our guy. We're building our team, or you're a franchise player. We're building our team around you. And I'm like, well, Jim, I'm not coming back here to train in the summer. I can't do it. He's like, okay, all right, you're still a franchise guy, blah, blah, blah. Anytime you get told you're the franchise guy, what typically happens, you're getting dealt.
You're someone else's franchise
Yeah,
guy.
exactly. You become someone else's
Notice he
franchise
did not
player.
say you are the Hartford Whalers.
There you go.
franchise guy.
There you go. So I was actually fishing with our head coach. He flew up to come see me, checking on me. We went muskie fishing, and he hung out for a couple of days. And then he was flying back to Hartford, stopped in Thunder Bay. Dryden, Ontario was not exactly the easiest place to get to. So he stopped in Thunder Bay, called into the office. Again, no cell phones. Called into the office from the payphone, and was just kind of updating the GM on, our time together and, what he saw. And he's like, Homer, let me just stop you right there. We just traded Chris to the St. Louis Blues for Brandon Shanahan. And he's like, oh, okay, great. Thanks for the heads up.
And
I
so
was just with him.
does he immediately hang up the phone and call you? Or?
No. So then the GM was just finishing consummating the deal, and then I can't remember. I think my agent might have called me, said, "Hey, they just traded you to St. Louis."
It kind of like one of those seminal moments when you're 16 and you didn't make the team. You're on the phone, and was it almost like what? Come again?
Yeah,
What?
I was like, I was just with the head coach like 4 hours ago.
What's going through your head though? I mean, other than confusion.
I was excited, to get out of Hartford and just, it was the franchise was in dire straits. To get to St. Louis, at the time they had Al McGinnis, they had Brett Hull, they were kind of reshaping their team. They were getting aggressive free agency. They were adding some veteran players.
You were excited, but the fans in St. Louis might not have
Were
been,
not
right?
excited.
Okay,
I
so-
was excited. They were not excited because, unbeknownst to me, and I
because
always
Brendan
thought,
Shanahan.
I thought Brett Hull was the star player.
Yeah.
at the time, Brendan Shanahan was starting to supplant him as the star player and was kind of the man about town. And I came walking into this as a young 20-year-old, not really knowing what was going on. And all of a sudden, I'm getting, like, it's my fault that they traded him. I'm like, I don't make those decisions.
Yeah, they don't care.
And I got booed for, like, the first 78% of the season. I'm getting screamed at by the coach in practice. I'm getting screamed at him in between every period. I was Mike Keenan's bitch for the bulk of the year.
It's hard enough, and it's easy for a casual listener to dismiss adversity like, oh, well, you're a professional, you're famous, or you're getting paid. I don't agree with that. I think anyone's job, no matter what you choose to do, whether it's you're a professional hockey player, you're in real estate, you're a teacher, every job has its ups and downs. And the challenges, this is just my opinion, are hard enough as is. But to think about me having to do my job, which I don't, where immediately after doing my job, the public then like gets on the horn. And again, I experienced a little of this as a kid, listening to talk radio in Cleveland, Ohio, and having them critique my father after his games. But like, imagine, if you're listening, where it's, imagine doing your job and then Monday through Friday, and then on the weekend you turn on the news. Back in the day, you listen to the radio. Nowadays, social media, and just people are ripping like, man, that history lesson, teacher Smith taught, that was awful.
What is he doing?
Or
it's like that Peyton Manning commercial.
That's right. That's right. It's a great commercial. But in your case, it's not just critique. It's like your fans are aggressively letting you know they do not want you here for, when I say for right or for wrong, and you did very much win them over. But that had to have been hard.
Those are the moments, speaking of mentality.
Yeah.
Those are the moments that define who you are. When you go through adversity like that for that prolonged period of time, there were a lot of rough days. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of nights. We usually played home games Thursdays and Saturdays. So I had my Thursday watering hole and I had my Saturday watering hole after the games, typically getting booed.
You probably had just turned 21.
I had just turned 21.
Or you were still fake IDing.
Yeah, I wasn't getting ID'd, but
yeah, that's true.
But I, once I had my ID, I'm like, okay, I'm 21 now. And they'd always be like, hey, you're not 21. I go, actually, I am now.
Yeah.
You should have got me last month.
I know. But so you had to work through it. Did you have someone that you could turn to? Would you, not to be too
really.
personal,
I didn't for a long time.
Would you call like your mom or dad? And I don't mean to.
No, I wouldn't. No,
your brother?
I never really, not big on complaining. I'm not big on the woe was me. I mean, mentally, was I a beaten down man? Yes. Your confidence is shot. You're just like heads in a tailspin. You're trying to figure out how you got to this place, how you can get yourself out. And it was really just, I was not good. I was just in my head. He was screaming at me. And then ultimately one day I go to the front of the plane and Mike gives me a number. Call this guy. I'm like, okay. Sports psychologist.
Mike's your coach.
Mike Keenan's a coach.
Okay.
Hands me this. He puts his arm around me. He's like, kid, you need to talk to this guy. So I talked to him. I talked to this guy for a couple weeks and really just try to extract yourself out of the moment. How did you get here? How do you get back to playing without thinking and just being reactive to the situation, to the moment? And really just saying, I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. You guys can boo me. You guys can yell at me. You guys can wait out by my car in the parking lot, and I want to fight you, and you can.
But you can't.
But I can. But I can. But I can't. And
nowadays you can.
Yeah, exactly. And challenging fans and whatever, to getting to the fact where I then go out and say, you know what, do whatever you guys are going to do. I need to get back to playing aggressive, playing my style, playing.
I was going to ask, did that period of time, did it affect your play? It sounds like
100%. You weren't confident in your decision making, and even if for a bit my partner would make let's say he makes a stupid pinch, I take a 3-on-1 back, I sprawl out to try to do something, and they score. It's my fault, coach. Why are you sprawling like that? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I don't have time. You don't have time to think like that, and I've done that move 1,000 times since then, and it works quite a bit, but it's not 1,000%. So once I said that, then I started playing, and as it's stupid cliches, one foot in front of another, where you have some success, then you have more success, you have more, and now your confidence starts building and growing, and now you're not even paying attention to the crowd. It also helped that we had just traded for Wayne Gretzky.
That helps.
So the attention...
What do they call that guy, the great one?
Yeah. Then the attention went on him, and people stopped worrying about me and Shanny and focused on him. So it helped, number one, in watching how he prepared, watching how he handled the notoriety and the eyeballs and all the stuff that came with the great one. How he practiced, how he prepared for games, just, soaking it all in. And I was able to use a lot of that and get out of the limelight and not be the focal point to then find my game. And by the end of that season, going into the playoffs, my first year there, I started to play some of my best hockey and used that as a springboard.
Got it.
Got in a couple fights,
Did you
got
win?
physical, yeah.
Well, the fans...
Well, then they like that.
I was going to say, you should have just beat up somebody early. They would have like, well, I like that.
But you're in your head, you're like, I don't know, dude, is now the time? When's the you just start second guessing everything
hold
you're
on,
doing.
time out. When is the time to get in the fight on the ice? Like, when is like...
There's a couple. There's one to defend a teammate, or to seek retribution for something, or to defend yourself. Or if we're in a heated moment in front of the net, did two tempers flare and sparks fly, you're like, let's go. It literally takes...
That makes a lot of sense. I always wondered, is there a strategy... and let me take, if I may, oftentimes a defenseman, but let's say a defenseman who wasn't as talented, where him off the ice may not be as big of a drop-off as perhaps you, but where you're like, hey, go fight their best player, and both you guys get taken out for a couple minutes.
Yeah, see, you don't need to say that, because guys know.
Guys know.
I mean, guys are constantly coming at me, and guys are constantly going at other players in that caliber just to try to get you off. So it's a matter of, if you have somebody like me over there, I'll fight him.
Yeah.
So that it's a fair trade-off. And sometimes you're just, emotions are high and tempers flare, and
that makes sense.
Shit happens. But typically, as you mature and as you kind of understand the game within the game, you get, all right, there's some gamesmanship involved here too.
Now I'm going to tie together Wayne Gretzky fighting and mentality. Is, I assume, when he came, part of your responsibility, whether you were told it or not, was to, what do they call it, protect him? Right, if somebody took a cheap shot on him, you might go over there and start something.
I think, we got him later in his career, so I think that side of it, respect side, and we'll call it graciousness, but you play hard on him like that year, and then when he left and went to New York, played against him a number of times, you play hard on him, but you're not out there trying to hurt him.
Maybe early in the career that was more of a thing, yeah.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, back in his Edmonton days, they had about 7 tough guys that were there to provide support when needed.
Exactly. Yeah. I was growing up in LA. I think it was Robitaille.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but you had mentioned when he came to your team, even if it was a small amount of time, it took off some of the attention and that helped. But I think you had said watching him prepare, watching him play, watching him deal with fans. What did you pick up in terms of his mentality or his mindset as it related to how he approached his profession? What did you learn?
I think just understanding the notoriety that he had, the gravitas that came with him, and then just the media mayhem and just the constant production every single day.
He's always got to be
the great
on.
ones in town.
Yeah.
And just from the fans to the media to, kind of what that entailed and just how he managed it, and just gave his time to the media who do they want?
Did he ever talk about it where, I'm sure there was a moment, I can't think of it off the top of my head. He just seemed like he always did a great job with that.
Yeah. No, he did. He did a great job in promoting the league, great job in promoting the team and himself. And that obviously comes from his upbringing, his parents. Got a chance to know his dad very well in some of the teams that we played on, and just great people. And I think he treated others with how he wanted to be treated, in and outside of being the great one, and people kind of gravitating towards him. You just see how he was able to interact and give time to the media and sit there and wait. I'm sure there were a lot of times where he was like, I do not want to talk to you again about the same thing.
But he did. I umpired his kids in baseball growing up, and his daughter went to school with my youngest brother. So same town. This is out in Southern California, and really nice guy, super fun guy.
Yeah.
As Canadians, man, they have a good time.
Yeah, we know how to have fun.
Yes, yeah, you do. So speaking of having a good time, you're on the Blues. It's late in your first season. It's starting to come together, springboarding into the next season, and really, correct me if I'm wrong, basically entering the prime of your career and winning the Hart Trophy, which I think you're the first guy or the only guy.
I was the first defenseman since Bobby Orr.
Yeah, since Bobby Orr. The Norris Trophy, which is best defenseman, and how was that period of your life like? Like where you're kind of everyththing's hitting on all cylinders. Firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I think, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier about structure and discipline. Al McInnes, who was my defense partner in St. Louis, started training with a guy by the name of Charles Poliquin. So, I finished my second season in St. Louis, my fourth year in the league, and Charles had come in, and I was like, hey, I want you to meet my trainer. So I go over to Al's house, and I walked in the front door, and it was I walked 6 feet, and Charles is standing on the side. He's like, hey, walk towards me. I walk towards him, and he goes, okay, walk back. And he goes, you got a bad left shoulder? I'm like, yeah. Like, you got a bad left knee? I go, yeah. Like,
he just knew.
Saw me take 5 steps, and just my gait, how my shoulder, how everything was moving. And from that point on, I started working out with him. I changed my diet. Obviously, had to rebuild my body, and just, you're in the gym doing these stupid rotator cuff things. You got 5 pounds. You get all these muscle heads in there. You get all these people looking at you doing these stupid, shoulder exercise and all these dumb things. Yeah, bands and all these things. And I did that for like 6 weeks. I didn't even lift. I was doing all these rehab movements and just getting my body realigned and back together and laying on a spine roller and doing all these certain things. And then I started lifting. And it was just an accumulation of summer after summer after summer doing that, and then lifting during the season and kind of moderating my workload. By that third camp of coming in, I was like, that next year I was up for the Norris Trophy. Then Al won it the next year. Then the next year I won the MVP and the Norris Trophy. And it was just an accumulation of consistency and discipline each and every summer. I would map out my whole summer. Here's the 5 times I'm going to drink in the summer. And just be like, all right, I have this wedding and this. And it would just be like, okay, I'm going to have fun on
just stay
such and such day. And every other day, my diet protocol or my nutrition protocol, my supplements, my workouts, everything was scheduled. Everything was certain times, certain cadence, certain everything, right? And just, I got to camp that one year, man. I was picking guys up and just moving them.
How much you were weighing now?
I was probably 215, but just completely built different. Yeah, just built different. And, playing 30 minutes, I still needed to be built for speed and try to chase these little guys around. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, you can bulk up. It's kind of like in The Last Dance where he methodically added, 4 or 5 pounds a year for like 3 or 4 years. To a certain degree, it was just a matter of you wanted good weight where you're gaining it, but you're not feeling heavy and feeling overloaded and things like that. So it's just a structured process. So
you're in the prime of your career. Did you guys get to a Stanley Cup with the Blues?
We did not. We won the President's Trophy. We got beat in the first round, and then the next year I win the Hart and the Norris, and then the next year I snapped my wrist. My teammate was trying to ice a puck and hit me, and I got what is known as a nightstick fracture. So a guy, cop coming down with a nightstick, you put your arm up and it shatters your.
And did you have a plate in there?
They put a plate on it, and then we were getting ready. It was just right before the playoffs. So they put a plate in it, and all right, you'll be back in 3 weeks or whatever it was. Well, I came back. I can barely hold my stick. It was super weak. It was And in the conversations beforehand, I said, okay, if I put this plate on, I can finish, I can play in the playoffs. And then once we're done, you need to take it out. And they're like, oh, yeah, no problem. And I'm like, are you sure? Yes. So I'm like, okay, put the plate in. They put the plate on, I finish the season. We go to the third round. We lose to Colorado the year they won. And then, lose to them the year they won. And then
Was it a goalie? Was that
was
Law?
Bork won that.
Okay,
That's the
gotcha.
year Bork won. And then I go, okay, take the plate out. And they're like, oh, we can't do that. I'm like, what? So completely lied to me. So I trained that summer. Like now it's affecting my shoulder. It's basically going down the whole chain. My elbow's getting sore. My shoulder's getting sore. It's just not working properly. Play that year. At the end of that year in the playoffs, I blow my knee out, tear my ACL. So now I go into that summer and I'm like, hey, my wrist is a mess. So I have ACL surgery, rehabbing that. I have major wrist reconstruction where because the plate was on there, my bone was growing into my hand. I don't know why. It was stimulating growth in the bone. So like, all right, we need to go in there and shave that down.
Sounds awesome.
And I said, while you're in there, take the plate out. Clearly that's an issue because my arm's aching.
Yeah.
Come out of surgery. For whatever reason, they lock my hand in a cast like that. What's my bottom hand? I need to do that to shoot. So I got my hand locked like that. I'm rehabbing my knee. I take my cast off, and I can only move my hand to there. I couldn't rotate it. So
You're like, hey, this isn't good.
no. So now I'm at prime of my career, just coming off Hart, Norris, coming off all these things.
And you're what, late 20s maybe?
I'm 26.
Yeah, so physically you're,
I'm in the
you're
prime of
hitting
my
your
career.
prime. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm sitting here thinking, holy shit, I can't move my arm. I can't do what I need to do. Like I'm seriously thinking about retiring. My knee, now it's affecting my shoulder, my elbow. I'm like, this is not good. I do this whirlwind tour with my agent where we go meet with 3 specialists. One in Toronto says, I can take the plate off and you'll be good in 3 weeks. I'm like, that might be a little aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go see another guy. He says it's going to take a year because where the screws are, they said, we need that to fill in.
Too much.
And I'm like, oh, that seems a little soft. And then we went and saw another guy in Baltimore. He's like, oh, no, you'll 3 months and you'll be good. I'm like, well, that sounds accurate. So anyways, we go with him, but I have to go meet with the owner to get him to approve because now I got to get a second.
And this is elective surgery.
Yeah,
Is what they
yeah.
call it,
And I'm like, I've seen all these specialists. I go, and I go see him in training camp, and I go, here, turn my hand. And he grabs my hand, and he's like I go, I'm not holding it. Go ahead. He's like, reefing on it. I go, it doesn't work. I have to go in and get it fixed. And they're now paying me $10 million. So I'm like, if I don't get this fixed, I can't play. So finally they signed off on it. I go get this done. It's what's known as a Derrick procedure. They cut an inch out of your wrist, and I don't have that bone anymore.
Yeah,
So they cut that whole inch out, and there was like a divot in my wrist, and that's now filled in with scar tissue. I was the first professional athlete to have that and come back and play.
But it worked.
It worked. My wrist felt, now I can move it. And just the discipline, the mindset, the failures, the ups, the downs, all that crap. Thinking you might have to retire, buying a junior team with a partner, thinking, all right, well, maybe I'll do that. And then realizing, okay, this worked. My knee's back, my arm's back. I'm like, okay, then I come back and play one more year. Then we get a lockout.
What year was this, 2001?
This is, I was hurt 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
Then I missed 2002, 2003, and then I played in 03, 04 right before the lockout.
But in between that time, 2002, you won a gold medal?
Yes. That right when I came back is when the Olympics were in Salt Lake.
You won it for Canada?
Yeah. Sorry. We beat the U.S. Sorry.
How is the U.S.? You living in the U.S.? You should have played for us. Can you play for us?
No. Once you play for one country, you have to stick with it.
Well, that sucks. How was that?
It was great. It was great. And seeing a team, as Canadians, we don't rarely play together. The U.S. has their USA team. Sweden, they got their Swedish team. All these players have played together for a long time. there's so many of us. It's diverging ages and whatnot. It's just a mishmash of, all right, you guys come together, and it's like, oh, you think, oh, well, you guys are all highly paid and you're pros, that it's going to be like, chemistry is going to be like that.
But it's not.
It takes time, and sometimes it comes together and sometimes it doesn't. That particular year, we lost our first game. We changed goalies, and it just, when you see a team come together and you just see that starting to get it, starting to see chemistry, starting to get it, and you're not playing to lose, you're playing to win. You could see us getting better, you get us more confident, getting better. And by the time the medal round started, we're playing the quarterfinals match, we're like, okay, we're rolling. And then it was, all right, now we're rolling. The U.S. had kind of steamrolled through to the finals, and then we put a shellacking on them.
We're gonna skip over this part. Now,
let's fast track over this.
So, interesting thing about mindset is many times a big driver of motivation is playing for something bigger than yourself. Did you feel that when you were playing for the Canadian team?
Absolutely. We talk about legacy, we talk about tradition, we talk about all these things. The national sport for Canada is actually lacrosse, believe it or not.
I did not know that.
But hockey's obviously ingrained in the culture, and hockey is Canada.
Yeah.
So when you don the Canadian sweater, it's like, all right, you've got all that tradition, you got all that history on your back, and it's, some people, the pressure, like anything else, can get to them, and other people kind of relish it. And
did you relish it?
I did. Yeah, I just, like getting booed. I guess I'm doing my job. You're booing me. Unless you're on your home ice.
Did you find yourself playing harder than you ever had before? And I don't mean to make it a loaded question. Not that you wouldn't play as hard as possible at all times, but was it putting on that Canadian hockey jersey specifically and playing for the gold medal and representing your country and where you're from in very much the most important sport? Did you find another level you're able to hit?
Yeah, I think you're able to take whatever role they want you to play. Because you get 20 all-stars. You're not all going to be on the power play. You're not all going to be on the scoring lines, or you're not having the same roles and responsibilities as you typically might on your NHL team. So it's, players need to be willing to, they might be scorers, but they might have to be checkers, and they might have to play the checking line, or they might,
What was your role? If you had to describe it.
I was shut down D.
Yeah.
I didn't play the power play much. You have other guys that's their role. I was more the shutdown D and kill penalties, and you're not playing in 30 minutes like and that's also the difference too, is you're used to playing 30 minutes and you're used to being immersed in the game, you're used to playing. Now you're playing anywhere from 15 to 22 minutes a night.
So it's kind of you don't get in the flow as much.
Yeah, you're not immersed. Every other shift you're going back. Versus, okay, well, here's somebody else's matchup, and you're used to being that matchup. You're like, okay. And it's, just trying to stay in the rhythm and stay in the flow. And it takes, sometimes it takes a few games to kind of acclimate your body and acclimate yourself to what that is.
Now, you win a gold medal. You actually end up winning two, one other in 2010. But in between that, you were traded from the Blues to the Ducks.
I was traded from the Blues to the Oilers.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Where I'm going with this, to the Ducks, where you won a Stanley Cup.
Correct.
And how would you compare winning a gold medal to a Stanley Cup?
They're both obviously incredible feelings, and I try to explain it like this to people. We're basically putting an all-star team together for 2 weeks versus blood, sweat, and tears in 9 to 10 months with a group of guys that, some have come and gone because of trades and injuries and things of that nature. But the blood, sweat, and tears, the chemistry, the failures, and then the successes, and that bond on that team was, we're a tight group.
So would you say it was a more
meaningful
as it related to your relationships with your teammates?
And more meaningful in the sense that when I was growing up as a kid, I didn't think I was going to play in the Olympics, because at the time it was amateurs only. So I was thinking, it was, when we were playing road hockey, it was always Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals. Mm-hmm. It was never, it's for a gold medal. So it just, you get ingrained in your head, I want to win that. I want to win that. I mean, they're both incredible accomplishments, but just the time frame and the dedication it takes to win a Stanley Cup, the luck, the discipline, the chemistry, the camaraderie, the buy-in that it takes to win a championship. 2-month grind, and then, oh, by the way, it's incredibly hard to get to the 2-month grind, and then to come through that and have a run like that. 2 months is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing,
especially
could play 28 games.
At that high of a level of the highest level of hockey.
Every single game
is the most
the
important
momentum
game.
shifts that can happen. I mean, you are, I'm telling you, I've seen players dive in front of slap shots with their face, just be like, it's all or nothing. You know, you're like,
and if you
I'll get it fixed.
And
later.
if you ask them why they did that, they look at you like you're crazy. Like, what do you mean?
Why? Everybody here would do that.
Everybody would do it. You touched on something that I is very, I would say meaningful to me is when I talk to players of a sport specifically, you know, the money's great. That's awesome. And fame, you know, we talked on that earlier. It's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's good parts and there's a lot of bad parts. But would you say perhaps the hardest part about eventually your career coming to an end, just like everyone's does, whether it's some people's, you know, it's just college or maybe 1 or 2 years in the pros, yours 19 seasons, but is the camaraderie you had with your teammates in the locker room, your professional brothers, so to speak, was that hard to give up when that day came?
I think when you talk to people, and I talk to a lot of former players and guys that are successful and guys that are struggling, they miss the rush and the adrenaline rush of playing, and they also miss the camaraderie and the brotherhood of being in the locker room and the sanctity of the locker room, and the fun and the discipline and the that we have a goal. There's a goal, a set goal, and each day, how are we getting there? How are we moving closer to the goal? And guys retire, and they've never thought about what's next. They've never thought about, what do I do? What am I good at? And what I tried to do early on in my career is, you get pigeonholed into, there's Kyle the football player. No, I'm not Kyle the football player. I'm not Chris the hockey player. I'm Chris. Mm-hmm. I do play hockey, but I also do X, Y, Z, and you try to counter these stereotypes, or they used to always piss me off because I'm like, okay, you're John the lawyer. Yeah. Oh, you're Joe the accountant.
Yeah. I so many times, I actually say one of the biggest struggles for athletes is they hear that so much. That is you're Chris, the hockey player, that what they do in their head actually becomes who they are.
Yeah. They only identify as
and
that.
So think about that when what they do in their minds is actually who they are, and what they do is taken away from them, just age,
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's almost like their identity is taken away from them. And
that's when it spirals.
The biggest challenge I have from my ex-teammates and even family members, and I'm sure all of the thousands, hundreds of teammates at minimum you've had, but the biggest challenge I've seen is they almost feel like who they are is taken, and they lose their identity, and that leads to depression, and unfortunately that can lead to you see some, especially in the NFL, ex-NFL players, high-profile suicides and drug abuse and all that. But yeah, I guess my question was, how did you pivot? It appears very successfully when others really struggle from. You were touching on that, why the Stanley Cup was in many ways so much more meaningful because of the journey you went on with your teammates.
No pun intended.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. See, it's a plug.
Hey, it always comes back to the journey.
Journey whiskey, baby. But the journey, some of which involved whiskey,
correct?
That you went on with your teammates over 9 months and sometimes over multiple years, and then I'll talk about your retirement more specifically in a second. But how did you do that? How did you just pivot? And stay productive?
I was fortunate enough to have a bit of a runway, getting hurt and still having years of my contract, so I was getting paid out to kind of figure that out. But while I was playing, I was always interested in business. If I wasn't a hockey player, I was going to do something in business.
So you always had.
I was always interested.
Okay.
In just learning. I wasn't like, oh, here's my money and just tell me how I'm doing.
And as you know,
wasn't paying attention.
As you know, we haven't talked about this, but that's also not normal for professional athletes. Most professional athletes are like, Here's my money. Ideally, hire a
good
a
one,
competent financial advisor. But again,
not give them power of attorney.
And not give them power of attorney. Yeah, and I will say, at least on the NFL side, it seems like that's getting a lot better than maybe 20 years ago. There were some really interesting characters to say the least.
Yes. There seems to be a little better vetting going on.
Much better.
You still see it once in a while.
Yeah, you do. But so business helped.
Yeah, I think just understanding, and I have two great mentors in my life, both of whom, relied on. I got hurt in Philly, and I asked them both. I go, "Can you guys fly in here?" I'm now told I can't play. I'm done. You're retired, or you're gonna have to retire. And I'm like, "Holy shit!" I had already had a pretty good layout of, all right, I've got investments. I get this, some interests. Maybe get into the management side. Maybe do the XYZ. Both of them flew into Philly to see me, and both of them said the same thing. The first person who I lived with my first year in Hartford said he had retired 3 separate times. Once he was 52, once he was 57, another time and he's just like, I wasn't ready. And, I was too young. What are you going to do? You're going to go play golf? Can you golf every day? Can you, where do you put your time?
I can't golf.
So then it became, okay. So he's like, both of them said, don't do anything for a year. Don't agree to do any charities. Don't agree to, because people are going to start coming out of the woodwork now that you got all this free time. Don't do anything. Take notes, sit down, talk to them and take notes, check the ones that are of interest. Talk about, I want to buy a business. Okay, don't buy anything because everything's going to look good because it's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's going to look
Everything
good.
looks interesting.
Everything looks, I wonder if I could make this work, and I wonder if this would be a good business to start, blah, blah. And really kind of sit down, take notes, look at it. In a year, come back to it or thereabouts and look at it and go, okay, what still interests me? Where do I want to invest my time? Do I want to be involved in this philanthropic organization? Do I want to build out this business? Do I want to invest in this? Do I want to, and really just kind of sit back. Number one, work on your health, get better, and then be methodical and strategic in what you invest your time in so that you've now reflected back on your career. Like when the season's over, I wasn't sitting back, oh, what a great year. What did I accomplish? I'm like thinking about the next year already. I'm training for the next year. I'm not thinking about what I've been able to do in my career, what I've been, on and on and on. I'm focused on forward.
Go ahead.
So it just, you didn't have time to reflect. So they were also like, just reflect and, take the time to soak it all in, what you've been able to accomplish, and all the while kind of try to lay little seeds out there of what might be of interest and invest.
I want to tie what we were just talking about with what we're now transitioning to, which is, more professional business, post-career. But what we were talking about a second ago was teammates and the relationships and the special bonds that are forged when you do something very difficult and on top of that achieve, which in hockey is Stanley Cup win, and the meaning behind that. When you were pivoting, transitioning from being a professional hockey player to a professional businessman, let's call it, what weight did you put on, or what advice would you have for an audience to put on? Certainly compensation's important, what you could make or what you could create in terms of wealth. Certainly what you do, in hockey, it's the rush of playing hockey, or for you having interest, or the rush of whether it's being in the whiskey business or travel business or real estate, whatever it is. But who you do it with. That's where I'm getting at is certainly in a professional sport, like you call each other teammates, you don't call each other coworkers, right? Yeah. Because teammates is a more special word. But what thought or what importance did you place on who is going to be your teammate in your business life? That's one of the biggest things is you're trying to map out what that looks like, and then you're also mapping out, is there anybody that you can do it with that has expertise that you don't have, that's going to be a valuable partner in whatever you're building out? Are you the yin and the yang? Are you able to kind of play off one another, that type of stuff? Or are you want to work for somebody? Do you want to be your own boss? And I started working for a team. I worked for the league, and then I worked for a team. And
I think it was 30 plus years of being told what to do, where to go by somebody. And I'm like, I don't like working for the man no more. I want to be my own boss, and it's a matter of if you manage your money well. I made a lot of money playing. I'm like, I don't have to work, but I like to work. I like to stay active. I want to do something productive. I want to, build out a business. And so, you go down the management path, and I'm just like, it's just not for me.
We were talking about that Dana White video. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you think you want to work for yourself? You think you want to be an entrepreneur? Like,
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
Like,
you want to put all the hard, the grinding days in.
it's a war.
And I think knowing yourself, some people are meant to work for somebody, and some people are willing to, that have the wherewithal and the ability to identify how much effort and discipline and will it's going to take to build out a business. Are you willing to sacrifice the time? Are you willing to make the time to do it?
All right, before we talk about business, I'm going to put a bow on your playing career. Finished the NHL. I'm going to read off some stats. 157 goals, 541 assists for 698 points. Especially as a defenseman, that's a lot, right? But what I love is one of the highlights, 1,590 penalty minutes.
I was in the sin bin a few times.
Is that what they call sin bin? That's awesome. That's awesome. So over 1,167 games. So you actually had more minutes than games. So in any given day, you were going to be in what you call the sin bin. And that's on top of 173 playoff games. So 26 goals, 95 assists, 121. Like an incredible career. Congratulations on that. You retired, and correct me if I'm wrong. You had played so long, but it was, you had a career-ending eye injury. You had some post-concussion syndromes. You had just wear and tear your wrist, your knee, your shoulder. Was it just time?
Yeah. And up until that point, I had 13 surgeries when I retired. I've had 3 since. 3 on the same knee. Got a knee replacement a couple years ago. Just, could I have played a couple more years? Yeah.
But were you? Would you say you were?
I accomplished. So it's funny. I got hurt, and Sidney Crosby was hurt at the same time, and he's like 12 years younger than me, I think, or ish. I think he might have been. I was 37, turning 38. No, what was I? Yeah, I was 37, turning 38, and he was like 24-ish.
He had
ballpark. And he had a really bad concussion, and he didn't play the whole year. If I was in his shoes, as I'm talking to the media, as I'm getting asked all these questions all the time, I'd played 19 years. I'd won a cup. I'd won a gold medal. I'd won an MVP. I'd won, won everything that you can win.
It checked every box.
I've checked all the boxes. I go, I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to. I've done it all. Him, on the other hand, he's won a cup, but, he's still got the prime of his career in front of him. That I would be pissed. That would be hard to take if that was the end of his career. And so, I think every situation is different, as case by case basis. Like 24 versus 38 is a big difference. And now look to see kind of where he's come since then, and 2 more cups, and on and on and on. So, I think it depends on where you are in your career arc, how you've prepared. I know there's lots of guys I know that, like me, okay, your career's done. And now they're sitting there going, oh, shit, what now?
Well, I was going to ask, like,
any thought
into
that? What they would do.
What was that first morning like, let's call it after your formal official retirement announcement or press conference, whatever, however you delivered that message? What was it? You woke up, you're like, okay, so what do I do now? Or
no, you know what? I think it was just more, okay, I need to get healthy. So I spent I spent a year just retraining my eye, retraining everything, kind of getting back healthy, working on my concussions, doing all that kind of stuff. And
that was your job.
That was my job, was getting healthy. So for the first year, my job was getting healthy. I just spent that whole year getting healthy. I didn't.
In addition to that, again, maybe you're home more, right?
Yeah, I was just staying
at home dad.
Everything I did was staying. I'm driving the kids to school. I'm doing the stuff that I couldn't do when I was playing.
My dad retired when I was 15 or 16. And, all of a sudden he's home every day.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was different. I remember it very...
There's more discipline here now.
I thought it was cool. My mom probably took some adjustment from my mom. Like, what? Like, why are you here? Like,
well, when you look at the statistics of athletes, and athletes, you could say, Lord, you can say whatever profession. when they retire and they're home all the time,
It's not good.
it's usually not good. And there's a lot of divorce that happens from that because the spouse typically gets used to kind of being on their own schedule. They have their own schedule.
Well, you know, there's a business, and there's a business of real estate. There's a business of being a professional hockey player. There's a business of running a whiskey company, and then there's the business of running a house.
Yeah.
And
it's not easy.
it's not easy. Your wife stay at home?
Yeah.
Okay. My wife stayed home, and so it's a business. It's not easy. It's very challenging on many levels. But it'd be like someone coming in, you know, after a certain amount of time, all of a sudden you have a partner who's going to come in and 50-50 tell you how to run your business. You go, hold on. This was working really well.
We were running like a top earlier.
Yeah.
Don't screw up my mojo.
Do you think that might maybe your wife also helped? Hey, why don't you go figure out after you fixed your body? Why don't you go figure out something?
Yeah, no,
to do?
it was more. I was trying to see if I wanted to go down the the management path and wanted to try to figure out.
Yeah, because you did what 6-7 years of.
I did. You know,
you were involved in
I worked
hockey.
a little bit in Philly when I was there. You know, just kind of special assignment scouting. Then I got asked to go work at the league, worked there for 3 years in a Department of Player Safety. And then I went and worked for Florida for 3 years, special advisor to Dale Talon, the GM, and just kind of immersed myself in learning. You know, I was working at the league office. I got to be a part of 2 expansion teams, Vegas and Seattle.
You enjoyed the whole
understand.
time?
Yeah, you're just seeing the business side of the game, the financial side of the game. You're seeing the numbers. You're seeing the revenues. You're seeing, them talking about how can we grow the game without screwing up the traditions of the game and what people love about our game. So it's just, there's obviously a lot when you're a player, you're not paying attention to that crap, and you don't care about that crap. You're like, no, I want to get paid my money for what I do, and wherever you fall in that pecking, everybody knows their pecking order. Everybody knows who their comps are. The teams know too. And, we may argue about the top comps, but there's that middle comps that they're all the same. So it's a matter of that. But then when you see the financial side of it and see all the layers that go into it and, the haves and the have-nots, and yeah, there's a salary cap, but there isn't a salary cap on how you pay it. Front-loading contracts.
Financial engineering.
Yeah.
I think they
I
call
mean,
it.
You show me a new CBA, I'll show you the different ways we can manipulate it.
How would I say this? You did your 6-7 years kind of in and around the league.
Yep.
But you at some point decided that's not what I want to do.
Yeah, it was a great learning experience, and I think for me it was just, as I said earlier, I've just been working for the man, been told where to go, what to do, how to do it.
And you're ready to.
And I'm just was like, you know what? If I don't do anything, I just don't want to be told what to do.
I got you.
I'm going to do something. And at the time, my wife was building out the boutique travel business, and I was helping her kind of with the business plan and helping her with networking and talking to people.
The boutique travel was very much her idea.
It was her baby.
Got
She
it.
wanted,
Okay.
that was something she wanted to do. And our kid, our oldest was driving at that time, so you could see the writing on the wall that the kids were going to be mobile on their own. We were going to have more free time.
They were becoming more self-reliant.
Yeah. And so she's like, I'm going to do this now. I'm like, great, I'll help support. I was still working in Florida. Then I went to a trade show with her. I'm like, man, this is great. Everybody's happy, collegial. I'm sitting there in Florida, the team loses. I'm like, why do I got to be pissed off? I'm not playing. It's not my fault they didn't play good today. Why do I got to be mad? So it's just like, I don't want to walk around pissed off when I didn't even have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Do you have something to do like in the macro environment of putting players together? Sure.
Not the way you do as a player.
But, as a player, you live and die by every shift, every game, and it just eats and gnaws at you. And I was maniacal in that sense, where I just held myself to a certain standard, and it pissed me off when I couldn't meet that standard each and every game. And when you're in management, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to come down and be all mad. I mean, yeah, guys are going to make mistakes. I made mistakes as a player, but the coach's job is to coach them up, get them better, develop them, and as a management, your job is to bring in the players and get them to do their jobs.
I ask a lot of athletes this question. I get a range of answers, so we'll see with you is, no one's ever told me that they're not competitive. Everyone's like, oh, I'm the most competitive person. I'm the most competitive person. I hate losing, but in what you're relating to, it's kind of when you're whether you're on the GM side, you're in management, all the way to the furthest removed but emotionally invested a fan.
Yeah.
Like you can't directly affect the outcome of the game of the season. Now, again, as a scout, you could you could say, hey, we got to, okay, but not the way you can.
But then they still have to develvelop and they still got to train. They still have to give
again,
a shit and want to get
I hate
better.
that. We never use the word victim, but you're kind of like, you're basically...
you're at the whim of somebody else.
You're at the whim. I was going to say the whim of somebody else. But when you're a player and or a coach, you have the effect. And so where I'm going with this is, as much as everyone hates losing, myself included, were there ever games or series or seasons or just moments as a player where you lost? And again, you can hate losing, but you gave, and you knew you gave everything you had to that game. And you played the absolute best. It doesn't mean you played perfect. And while you hate losing and you're skating off the ice, pissed off, was there ever a moment where you're, I don't want to say satisfaction, but you're like, hey, I did everything I could?
Yeah, there's moments like that, but you're not satisfied.
Yeah.
You're like, we didn't accomplish what we set out to do. And I was fortunate enough when I was in Edmonton, we went to Stanley Cup Finals, we lost in Game 7. I get traded in Anaheim, we go and we win the Stanley Cup. Too often, and on that team we had a couple 21-year-olds, Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaff, who our assistant coach told us, he's like, yeah, I got to the Stanley Cup Finals as a rookie, my rookie year, and never went back. Those guys, Corey Perry went elsewhere to go. Getzky never went back. Never got to this finals again. It's just, when you have that opportunity, you better jump on it, because you never. I mean, a lot of it is luck, a lot of it is health, a lot of it is when are guys having career years. It's just so much.
What team gets hot?
Is the goalie hot? Do you have depth? I mean, it just
my cousin.
So much goes.
My
into
cousin Jake Matthews is a left tackle for the Falcons, and they were in the Super Bowl 5-6 years ago against the Patriots here, 28-3 in the third quarter. And they lost. It was a very, very tough, and hopefully he's not listening to this. But after the game, and, I waited a couple days and, hey, called him up. What's up, cuz? Like, sorry. He's like, no, you know what? Hey, it sucks, but, like, we'll be back. He's like, we're young. We'll be back. And
you don't want to tell him, dude, you almost got to catch lightning in a bottle. When you're not the perennial favorite every year, you got to catch lightning in a bottle.
You do. It's terrible. My uncle Bruce played 19 years. He made the Super Bowl once. Titans versus Rams. They lost on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
You were in St. Louis probably around that time. So I hope you enjoyed it.
I know they did.
my dad went to 3 AFC championships against Elway all 3 times, lost on the drive and the fumble.
Yeah.
Never went back, never got to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So when my brother Clay got there and with the Packers, and they beat the Steelers and they won.
Broke the string.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we had a bad string. We have a good college. We have a lot of championship college, but the NFL, it was wild. It was surreal, because like you realize, and you more so than I ever could, you had played a long time. You had lost in Game 7. So when you got back there with Anaheim,
and I was 31 years old. I'd been in the league 13 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Finally, my 12th year, I finally got to the finals.
Yeah.
And then we went in my 13th year. You go,
which
and
is
you're
incredible.
Just like, holy shit.
Now, I actually, and then you went back again. You were with the Flyers.
Yep.
You played the Blackhawks.
Yep.
That went to Game 7.
That went to Game 6.
Game 6.
Overtime in Game 6.
Overtime. That's right.
Yeah.
They win.
They win. Yeah.
There's a story out there that you might have taken the puck.
I didn't take that puck. I was actually on the bench when they scored, so I couldn't get out there fast enough to get it. But in games 1 and Game 2 in Chicago, they do all these media pieces, right? And they're showing, they've got this board in their locker room. They put all the game-winning pucks up to track, we need 2 more wins. We need So I'm like, well, I just happened to be on the ice at the end of the game. There's 2 seconds left, and somehow I get the puck. I'm like, well, I'm not giving it to him. Just reach down, pick it up. It's nobody's puck. Nobody owns the puck. Yeah. It's an NHL puck. I just took it, put them, just kept it. They got all mad, whatever. Took it. Wasn't thinking anything of it. We're just sitting there. I'm like, just threw it in the garbage. And then Game 2 rolls around again. We lose a heartbreaker 2-1. I'm like, again, just happened to be out there.
Just happened to.
I got the puck. I'm like, I'm keeping this one too. They take it. They lose their marbles. They're trying to come on the bench and all this stuff. And I'm like, you don't own this puck. Nobody owns this puck. The NHL owns this puck, which means I can take it if I want. So I take it. And that one I kept. I actually have it in my home office.
Oh, you do?
Just sitting in a plastic bag. And
Would you say you're a sort
It drove them bananas. So we're down 2-0.
Yeah.
Go back to Philly. Nobody's asking us about being down 2-0. Nobody's asking.
They're asking about the
They're
puck.
asking about the stupid puck. And I'm like, oh, so now I'm like, all we got to do, and I'm in the locker room, I'm like, guys, we just got to win our home games. They've won their games. They're supposed to. We win our home games. We went back. We won our 2 home games. And so it just, you lose another heartbreaker in Game 5, and then obviously overtime in Game 6. And we had some great chances to finish the game and didn't to get to Game 7. But
So would you say you're a sore loser?
always a sore loser.
That's what I tell people. I said,
First off, we lost to Carolina in 7 games. Never should have lost to them. We were winning Game 1 handily. And then in Game 2, we changed our system completely. It was stupid. Our goalie got hurt in Game 1. And our goalie doesn't get hurt. They don't win. We win Game 1, and then we're golden.
would you say the losses stick out so much more than the wins?
Always. You beat yourself up over the losses in anything.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get it. Business, family, sports. Hate. I think people who count realistically hate losing more than they like winning. No, you count your if you're competitive, you count your losses more than you count your wins.
I just had this conversation 3 days ago. I was explaining. Someone's like, "Man, you take losses hard." I said, "Oh, I'm the sorest loser. Like I take it personally. I am able to bring myself to shake someone's hand, but I really don't mean it.
Yeah.
I'm not happy for him.
Yeah.
I'm a very, very
That should have been me.
yeah." Yeah, and if it shouldn't have been me because I didn't prepare the way, I'm so mad at myself that again I could find a way to be gracious, but I said outside of like a championship, a meaningful championship over a long season, when we were at SC, we won a national championship my senior year. There was joy there.
Yeah.
Like and again, not to the level you have, but I assume the Stanley Cup was that. But I said. For right or for wrong, it's just the way God made me. I said, winning's more of a relief.
Yeah.
I said, but losing
Yeah.
is so sickening. It's such a disgusting feeling that, I work so hard, or I go so hard, or play so hard that it's really just to avoid losing more so than winning, which is, again, it's a relief outside of a championship.
Yeah. But that also goes into the complex or the ideology of playing not to lose.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line of competing and wanting to win, and then competing not to lose, and how that mindset. In 1998, when I was my first year in the Olympics in Nagano, we were the favorites, and Gretzky's there, and Sakic's there, and we got this team, and we're the odds-on favorite. And when we look back at the tournament and at the games, you could see, we were overpowering some teams. But then as we got along, we weren't getting better. We were playing not to lose.
Yeah, because
we were doing just enough, not throwing ourselves out there, not playing just enough not to lose. Because just the pressure of you got to win. Anything less than a gold medal was a complete and utter loss. So we lose in a shootout in the semifinals
to who?
And play to Czech Republic, and we then play Finland in the bronze medal game.
You guys didn't
no
want to be
interest.
there. Yeah,
like
you didn't want to
if
be
you could go back, you're like, it'd be cool. I get 2 goals. It'd be cool to have bronze too. Like, but you're not even focused.
No.
Like so disinterested, so like in shock that you lost this game that you feel like got stolen from you. But did you earn it? Like, did you really do everything in your power and do everything necessary to compete and win at that highest level? And
So, again, I mean this as a compliment. Sore loser. I love the story of taking the puck and just,
it's pissing them off.
just pissing them off.
Yeah. Oh, you guys won? Oh, good. I got your puck.
Yeah, and you still do.
I still do. I use it a paperweight.
So let's talk about pursuit of winning now in current. Talk to me about JRNY. Talk to me about Whisky. How'd you choose this business? What have been some of the big wins, and what are some of the challenges that you have to overcome every day?
Yeah, it's this was 2 years in the making. My brother and I had talked about trying to do something together for a long time, and just trying to figure it out. What made sense, what would be fun, what would be cool for us. As longtime whiskey drinkers and fans of Canadian whiskey. It's our home country. As my brother likes to say, we've put a lot of R&D into the product.
You got to be an expert.
That's right. We are whiskey drinking experts. But anyways, Niagara Falls Craft Distillers went to a friend of my brother's and like, hey, we're looking for a partner in this venture. We'd like to do something with Canadian hockey players. We think it's a good fit. He's like, oh my God, I think I have the right brothers for you. And they brought it to us, thought about it for a while, like, this makes sense. This is something we can get behind. One of the things, as I mentioned earlier, when I'm in, I'm all in. I don't think they understood what that meant.
They do now.
They do now. We're involved in, the flavor that's our flavor. So, you have what you like, and then we're like, here's what we would fix about it. It's got a little spice to it. It's got a little sweet and savory finish to it. It's got a little heat, but it's got none of that burn that most people hate going down. It's incredibly smooth.
Do you recommend neat or on the rocks?
Either or. It depends. It all depends on how you like to drink it. I usually drink it with a big rock. We've got a couple cocktails out now. If you're like an afternoon refreshing drink, that with the club soda and a nice orange wedge.
Now, you did say earlier, but I don't think we were recording, Zach, not that you should be drinking at 9 a.m. ever.
No.
But the best time to taste.
Yes. If you're looking to taste and kind of really get a sense of the real flavor profile when your palate is at its peak and everything is optimized and ready to run, 9 a.m. is what I was told is when your palate is at its best.
Well,
always put, if you get a little taste glass, put 1 to 2 drops of water in, and that opens it up.
Okay, I've never done that.
And
somebody once said,
explode.
I feel like I've heard, if not, I'm going to say this for the first time, and I'll copyright it, is 5 o'clock somewhere. So
Correct.
Yeah, I know, Jimmy Buffett, man.
So we partnered with them. We did the juice. My brother and I would FaceTime. They'd send us the product. My brother and I would FaceTime. We'd try it, and we'd talk about, make notes, talk about it.
Is your brother in St. Louis too? Or?
He's in Newport Beach. So he's out in Cali. So he's trying it. He's like, I like this.
Must be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good man.
Must be nice, brother. He's sitting down on his patio looking at the water.
In February.
Having a sip. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we do the first one. I want to fix this. Not knowing the exact whiskey lingo of how to do it, we just tell them, here, can you do this? Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Not knowing how they're going to do it. And then get the second iteration. We're like, yeah, it's better, but okay, got to get rid of more of the burn. Got to do this, and this. We both get the third iteration, which is this exact bottle right here. And we both took a sip, and we're kind of staring at each other on FaceTime. We're like, boom.
Boom.
That's it. This is it.
Well, tell your brother to enjoy that nice sip, staring at that beach.
Yes, but on the back,
when you have
this is going to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
Our tagline, celebrate the victories, be proud of your scars, enjoy the journey.
And take the puck.
And if you look at the logo.
It is a puck.
That's the puck.
That's the Chicago Blackhawks puck.
Yes, it's part of it,
but I was going to say, tell them to enjoy that sunset, but hopefully a big liquidity event. Tell them also to enjoy paying those Cali taxes, baby.
Yes. Well, we're in our infancy first. We're in Missouri, Southern Illinois, launched in Ontario a week and a half ago, which was great. Get on our home soil. Soon to be in Alberta and BC and Manitoba. And we're in New York, soon to be in New York City, and working on distribution in Texas and Florida.
I'm not going to talk about how much, but you did very well being an NHL hockey player. And so financially, professionally, you've achieved more success than probably most people could dream of. Why don't you just chill?
What am I going to do, golf all day? No. I mean, ultimately just I like having a purpose. I like doing something. I like, whether it's looking at investments, whether it's, working at our travel company, whether it's building out this whiskey business.
Would you say idle hands are the devil's workshop?
I would say if you don't have a purpose and if you don't have structure, somebody tends to sit right on your shoulder here, and
the devil talks to you.
Yes.
What advice would you have for people that may just not have the natural proclivity that you've talked about today, where you since a young age, respectfully, very disciplined, right? Again, I said earlier, the 10-year-old going to the library to study hockey practice, formations, that's not normal. But most people, if I may, I'm generalizing, don't necessarily have that.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you have, or what have you seen over the years for people who learned or developed discipline and routines and structures, which you've very clearly communicated the value of today? Like for our listeners who are like, I'd love to have it, but I struggle with that. What advice would you have?
Find mentors. Find people who want to help, people that are successful, people that are organizations that can help steer in directions.
When you're
align yourself with good people.
When you're an athlete, you have not people coming at you nonstop. Now, a lot of them scrupulous characters, but
correct.
You have the luxury. I'm a representative of the audience right now, and they're going to say, "Well, Chris, that's easy because when you're a famous hockey player, you have people, really successful people, who want to mentor you." But what about me? I'm just an average Joe. How do I find a mentor?
My brother is not exactly a name brand guy. It's throwing yourself out there. I mean, if you're not at the top, and oh, by the way, even if you're at the top, you've had failure. You've had moments where you weren't overly confident, and you then practice and you train and you try to perfect or hone your craft, whatever that is. It's also being prepared. I don't know how to meet someone. Prepare. Read a book on it. Watch a YouTube video. All of the information is out there on how to get better. It's what do you want to do? And if you don't know what you do, what do you not want to do? Then you can I tell my kids, I'm like, what do you not want to do? What do you not like? Cross those off. Create a list of things that you want to learn more about, something you might want to be interested in doing, and keep a list of, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. And you don't have to waste your time on any of these things because you're not interested.
Yeah, it's hard to be successful at something you're not interested in.
No, you have to be passionate about it and willing to invest your time and effort.
I'll tell you, just to piggyback on your answer, but also kind of answer my own question. Do not expect with great results if you're looking for a mentor and there's someone in this space that you want to be in or someone who's achieved a high success. Please don't rely on LinkedIn messages or just emails or phone calls. All great. I'll give you these are the young people say, a little hack here.
Yes.
Write a handwritten letter. I'll be shocked. Like, no one ever throws out a handwritten letter without reading it. And so if there's someone in the industry that you want to get in or you're in and you're looking for mentorship, I'm not saying it's 100% guarantee to succeed, but if you want to increase the probabilities that someone actually takes the time to at least even just get on the phone with you, write them a handwritten letter in blue ink.
Their assistant's going to look at it first, and guess what? They're going to read it and go, you need to read this.
Agreed. And even the most intimate of assistant to boss relationships, there's something about a handwritten letter where even if they read it, they're just like, I don't think I can throw this out without handing it to him.
He needs to at least see it.
Yes.
He or she.
Yeah, he or she. And if they are in a position where you want them to mentor, it's probably because they achieved success. And I think that person will appreciate the extra effort. This happened to me a week ago. I get lots of emails and phone calls, and I'd love to get back to everyone, but someone wrote me a handwritten letter. I was like, I got to get back to this guy.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty rude if I didn't. So are there any, in terms of starting this business, were there any concerns or fears of failure, that it might not work out?
I think once we decided to go down the path of doing it, you can't start something and think you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You're already failed because you think you're going to fail. No, it was a matter of us executing on the branding, the marketing, the juice, the packaging. It was just going through the sequence of events of what we needed to do to prepare for market, and then get with the distribution and figure out distributors, figure out how we're gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
Has it gone smoothly? No.
Running
Have
a
there
business
been
does
moments
not go
where
smooth? What are you talking
success is not a direct line?
about? Damn it. Someone lied
So
to me.
it, and you learn along the way. I mean, I wasn't in the liquor business before. So I knew a lot of people in the liquor business. I knew a lot about it per se, not the nuances and the intricacies of the business. And it's pretty fascinating and interesting to me now that I'm in it to kind of learn more and meet people and talk to how other people got started, kind of what they went through, how they built to where they are. I just, find it interesting. Just like talking to an athlete about kind of their story and their grind, talking to a business owner about how they got to where they went. I don't think people realize, like Tito's Vodka was literally almost bankrupt before they finally got a big order that started to get them and now it's massive.
No, yeah. Again, I'm not.
But people again,
Tito's and soda, baby.
To Michael Jordan, getting cut and middle school, high school, whatever, from the high school basketball team to me getting cut, whatever. There is going to be. It's not a straight line. There is going to be failure. There is going to be heartache. There's going to be disappointment. There's going to be loss. Adversity. How are you going to accept the challenge? It's not how are you going to quit. It's how are you going to accept the challenge? How are you going to overcome that adversity? And what are you willing to put into it to be successful?
Part of the reason I asked the question about, fear of failure is it's in conversations I've had with people, a lot of them will be, I'm thinking about starting a business or I've thought about it and I'll be like, well, why don't you? And they're like, well, what if it doesn't work out? So it's this
they've already lost. It's already
this fear
over.
of failure. And so what advice would you have for someone who,
Actually, I have a great answer for you.
Yeah.
And I don't even know your question, but I know it. One of the things that I think helped me the most in this company is the travel business. Is you're trying to grow the business. During the pandemic, I must have talked to 10,000 people. You don't know me that well. I'm very introverted. I'm not outgoing. I'm not talkative. But in that line of work, you got to talk to people.
get over it.
Get over your fears and talk to people and be vulnerable and talk to them about your business, talk to them about how you can help them, talk to them about whatever. And I think that has helped prepare me for this business in having the ability to talk about the story, talk about, the journey. It's called the journey, not because it's the journey of life. We all have shitty days. Have a glass of whiskey and tell your friends about it.
We also have good days.
We all have great days. Have a glass of whiskey and tell your friends about it.
Yeah.
Tell your parents, tell your spouse, tell whoever. And so it's really just, we want to integrate ourselves into everybody's own unique journey and how they go about living their lives. And, hence the tagline, celebrate the victories. We all want to do that. Be proud of your scars. We all get kicked in the face and have failure. And just enjoy yourself and just enjoy the journey of life. And I think too often we get in our own heads. You have a bad day, you have a down day, and things aren't going your way. You get a little down, a little depressed. Not everybody is 365 right up in the top, peaking at optimal levels. I mean,
nobody is.
It's just not how this world works. It's not how life is. And
gotta keep battling.
Yeah, it's the ebb and flow of life, and hence the journey.
The journey.
And since naming it The Journey, it's funny now, every time I talk to people, just casual conversation or, podcasts or just talking to various people, how often the journey, not this journey, like just the journey of life your journey.
It's a phenomenal.
How did you do, blah, blah. And it's a
phenomenal branding connotation because there's symbolism.
Yeah.
Like tremendous symbolism. And, in terms of overcoming fear, I did want to intertwine this story is, I would say, not only it appears you also, from a young age, didn't let fear be an obstacle for you, but it also helps when at one point in your career, you took a puck to the heart, your heart stops. Legally, did you die?
That's actually, I don't know if I legally died. I got hit in a playoff game in Detroit in 1998. I got hit right as my heart was about to beat. Commotio cordis, as we now know with the Damar Hamlin incident.
I was going to say the Buffalo Bills player, same thing.
There's a sequence of events that needs to happen in a sequential order in a specific timing, and then when you get hit, your heart skips a beat, which is called commotio cordis. This happens to a lot of Little League baseball players. They're coming in at third base. They get hit with a line drive, or you get a comebacker at the pitcher and it hits them. It's very prominent in Little League baseball. It doesn't get talked about a lot, but it's fairly happens quite regularly.
I think I just heard
And a lot of those kids die.
I just heard 30,000 moms cancel their Little League baseball.
A lot of those kids die because they're not fully formed. They're kids. They got a smaller heart, smaller wall, all that stuff. I was the first athlete to have this happen to them on TV. There was no social media then. 1998.
Probably better there wasn't.
Yeah, and so there wasn't really a whole lot of talk about it. It may have kind of been a blurb in the USA Today, and after our game notes. Oh yeah, by the way, Chris got hit in the heart. So I get hit in Detroit. It stings, and I'm like, in my head, I cover the puck, get a whistle, and in my head, I'm like, hey, you're in Detroit. Don't let these fans see you lay on the ice. So get up. We're right by the bench. I go, get to the bench. I black out. I don't remember, but I stood up, took like a stride, and just crumpled the ground. I wake up. I'm in the middle of the ice now. I'm looking up at the banners and the retired jerseys and stuff, and I'm like, where am I? And I look over, and our bench is right there, and guys are crying, and I'm like, what's going on? And they had cut all my stuff open, and they were getting ready to do mouth-to-mouth, and so as I talked to our trainer about it, I said, well, what exactly happened? At that time frame, they did not have defibrillator in the arena. And in the ambulance, it was just a bus. They didn't have any electronics and all the stuff that you would see now. It was just a bus to get you to the hospital. So they were kind of freaking out. My lips were turning blue. I wasn't breathing for like 20, 25 seconds. And then all of a sudden, they were about to give me mouth to mouth.
Yeah, that was enough.
All of a sudden, yeah, I was like, no.
The thought of your trainer giving you a kiss was enough to shock you back to life.
I came back to life, and it was just like, holy shit. Okay, I'm back, and then went to the hospital. Heart monitor tracking me, doing all that kind of stuff, and then I flew back to St. Louis the next morning. Went to the heart specialist, wore a monitor for 24 hours.
And you were back in there 48
hours.
Walking
on the treadmill. I'm in my dress shoes, jogging on the treadmill, like just trying to get my heart rate up, trying to, do all that kind of stuff. Wear this heart monitor all day, go back at lunch the next day, the day of the game, to get the data looked at, and then to talk to her about, can I play? Can I not play? What happened? What is this whole scenario going on? Can it happen again? Are there any long-term side effects, short-term side effects, all the things that you might ask? And she basically was like, you know what? This happens. It doesn't happen very often. But, I mean, can this happen again? Yes. They then put a pad around my heart area, which is now on every pair of hockey pads. There's a little heart guard, it's called. And she basically said, I mean, can it happen? Yes. Will it happen again? Doubtful. This is like a 1 in a million, 1 in 10 million type occurrence. Yeah. And it hadn't happened since DeMar Hamlin, which was 24 years.
Yeah, it was very weird. I remember seeing that.
It was 25 years, which is crazy.
So my point is, when you literally, overcome dying and the fear of death, it's not funny, but it's like, it's the fear of failure of starting a business or doing anything, whether it's for yourself, myself, or any listener. It's like, don't let that get in the way.
And also, get over yourself.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Rejection, whatever. It's just another opportunity. And I think, we all get set in our own ways, and we, don't necessarily want to challenge in other avenues that maybe we're not as good at. And I would argue that since I retired, I kind of work more on my negatives and the things that I'm not great at. And, whether it's speaking, whether it's opening yourself up for rejection and things like that, you're just like, well, if I don't throw it out there, hey, what else can happen? You're going to say yes or no. There's only two logical outcomes here. So it's actually kind of helped me in doing this to kind of have a better understanding when I look at investments and look at certain things, having that background and understanding of the dynamic of what are they not asking and why are they not asking it? Why are they not being more forthcoming with whether it be information, whether it be, different things? And as a business owner, you can kind of reverse engineer back and go, okay, well, if it was my product, how would I sell it? And you can kind of, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Do they have good execution? Do they have good funding? Do they have XYZ? It's just a matter of being able to look at something and now having more experience in business investing, et cetera. I was always interested in it, as I said, when I played, but once you retire, you obviously got a lot more time, time to invest in understanding things a little bit more than just be like, I see this place is always busy. Can you take a look at this stock?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely
which we've
dive
all
deeper.
done at some point.
In kind of wrapping it up here is yourself included, obviously, but we've talked so much about you. What would you say was a common trait of the best players? And again, athleticism aside, if I may.
Yeah.
I know in professional sports it's a big part of the equation, but what would you say separated, the greats from everyone else, other than just genetic, makeup, that perhaps a listener can hear and apply that thing to their business or their lives?
I would say drive, will, and determination. They're all incredibly driven. Their will to win, their will to succeed is greater than anybody. And they are unwavering in their determination to succeed and be the best. Are we always going to be the best? There's always somebody richer, somebody bigger, somebody stronger, somebody whatever. But you have to push yourself to want to be the best, and then find out how to do that. Like what are the markers? How do you prove that you're getting better? How do you prove all these things? And it's having an understanding that there's going to be rejection, there's going to be failure, there's going to be all these things, but you're going to push through that, and you're going to find a way to be successful. You're going to find a way to win whatever it is you're doing. You're trying to win a big contract. You're trying to win this business. You're trying to win over somebody to distribute the JRNY, whatever it is. It can be anything, but it's preparation, determination, will, drive. All of those things are always all-encompassing when you're talking about somebody who's at the top of their game.
So will, drive, determination, that was the most common thread amongst the best players you've ever played with. Last question.
And typically they're always the hardest workers in the room.
Which is probably output of...
Which is why they're typically the leaders.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always, the best player is the captain. Not all the time, but typically they are, because typically they're the hardest workers.
Well, if you have will, drive, and determination to be the best, as you said, you almost always eventually recognize that, well, then you need to work to get there. And so if you're willing to work more than anyone else, you are by definition the hardest worker. Is there a specific resource, book, thing like that you would recommend a listener or someone watching this podcast, like something that helped you or that you heard helped you? Obviously, you touched briefly on a 6-week sports psychologist, but like, is there something that you're aware of or you've experienced that helps people in increasing their will, their drive to determination?
I don't know if reading a book is going to do that. Personally, it's quasi innate in you, but it's also, if you're not passionate about something, you're not going to have a will or a drive for it. If you're not passionate about being the best, or passionate about your job, or passionate about doing the best work you can, whatever that is, I don't care what you're doing. If you're a janitor, if you're in real estate, if you're an athlete, if you're whatever, if you have the ability to be the best at what you're doing, it's going to rub off on other people around you, and they're going to see the pride that you take in your work, the drive that you have to be successful and be the best that you can at whatever it is. That rubs off on people, that you exude that aura when you're pushing yourself to be the best, and you're writing a note to somebody. You're like, you go through 3 iterations because you want it to be good. I want to send this kid a nice note. I want to reply to this person. I want to do the XYZ.
Or I'm looking for a mentor.
I'm looking for a mentor.
That's right.
Write it properly. And if you don't know how, Google it, read a book. I mean, you can figure it out pretty
You'll
quick.
figure it out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. If you really want it,
You're going to find a way.
everything is, as we say, figure outable.
That's right. We'll figure it outable. I'm going to use that. That's a good one. Chris, I can't thank you enough for being on this show. I've very much enjoyed it. I am even more excited about tasting this Canadian whiskey journey. I am, as we were talking about earlier, he's on his, 75?
75 hard.
Hard.
Yes.
I'm not nearly as tough as this guy. So I'm on 31 day, not as hard. I'm doing the Sober October with some buddies where, you work out 500 calorie workout every day and obviously 31 days. But whatever the first Saturday is in November, I don't know about 9 a.m. because my wife might.
No, you
be
just nice
concerned.
little afternoon.
No.
Soak in the rays.
For me, it's 9 p.m. There's a chance I've got all 4 of my kids, if not asleep in bed. I'm gonna
tucked in.
pour a nice little glass of Journey with 2 drops.
Or a big rock. You don't need the drops if you got the rock.
Generally, I like the big rock, but if I really want to taste it, which I usually would for the first time
And
I'm
I would
tasting
do
something.
neat, couple drops of water. Golden.
So whatever that Saturday is, 9 o'clock Central Time. That's where I'm gonna be. I can't thank you enough. You got to give me one of those shirts, man. That's
yes, sir. And
pretty
by the
cool
way,
swag.
another thing as it relates to mentality, I was just sitting here thinking, if you don't know, like we talk about mindset, we're doing 75 hard, you're doing that. If you want to challenge yourself, if you think, I'm not disciplined enough, find something to do that proves you can be disciplined, proves you can do something that is out of the norm that you don't normally do. I never did 75 hard before. I mean, I lived it kind of when I was playing. Like there were certain things you did and didn't do, but I've never done anything like that. I'm just like, well, you know what? I can do that. It's just a matter of setting your mind like, I'm doing this. Prove to yourself that you have the ability to be disciplined.
Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people who are more disciplined or push themselves. Like, because it sounds like you were willing, but your buddy who started it was like, hey.
And I've had
Chris,
a bunch of friends that have done it, and you see the results, and you see kind of what they've done.
I talk about all the time, I want to be the least motivated or least accomplished person in the room, because that's like my way of describing me, surrounding myself with people who are much more driven than I am, because for right or for wrong, that will drive me to do more. 100%. It sounds like you are a very driven human being, but your friend who started this like drove you to, at least for 75 days, to do more.
Try myself out, see if it works.
I'm sure you'll be fine. Chris, it's been a great time having you on the show. Hopefully, you said you're here till Sunday?
Yeah.
Enjoy the town.
Thank you.
And
we shall.
Look forward to sharing a drink with you soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.